per Cellhasher box, 20 phones, you're making somewhere in the magnitude of $40 to $60 a day.
Basically, I was sick and tired of paying a lot in electricity with my ASICs that I had running. I went a little overboard right away and I bought 100 phones with no plans. Okay, these are actually like making income at the time. You can deploy mining, you can deploy AI now, which is really cool. With my farm, I'm actually making around $130 a day on average between the staking and the compute. That's only 1,800 watts to run all of these devices. So you can do the math from there. You divide that by 120, you can get your amps. That's 15 amps that can run on your home electric service just in one outlet.
In this video, I talk with Luke, who's behind the Cellhasher. I've talked about the Cellhasher multiple times across this channel and my podcast, but if you've been running a Cellhasher over the past year, there are multiple opportunities where you could have made $5,000 or more per single Cellhasher unit. And if you ran multiple of those opportunities at the same time, $10,000 plus from a single device that uses 100 watts, runs some cell phones inside. It's pretty amazing. So I wanted to bring Luke back on the channel here to talk about the Cellhasher, talk about what he's currently doing with it, what he's done in the past opportunities, and dig into the nitty-gritty of what you need to know about a Cellhasher if you are indeed interested in one. So let's jump into it. And here we are with Luke. So Luke, let's start with the basics. What is the Cellhasher?
Cellhasher is pretty simple, but also pretty complicated. It's essentially a phone box with 20 different Androids in it, and you can run it as an Android supercomputer. The phones are taken apart. There's no risk of fire damage because the batteries are out. In some cases, the screens are removed. You get a little extra wattage. So you're running around anywhere from 60 to 100 watts, and you have 120 cores to anywhere from 120 gigabytes of RAM to 240 gigabytes of RAM, depending on your configuration. It's pretty cool. Anything you can do on a computer, you can essentially do it on an Android because it runs Linux essentially out of the box, under the hood.
And just for context, 100 watts, let's call it. That's kind of nothing. That's like your typical crypto miner, like a big ASIC, that's 3,000 plus watts. A home lottery miner sometimes are even 50 to 100 watts, and you'll never notice that on your bill. And so the Cellhasher fits neatly into that category of, if you run one at home, you probably won't materially notice it on your utility bill. So why did you create this thing in the first place? What was the impetus there?
Basically, I was sick and tired of paying a lot in electricity with my ASICs that I had running. And it wasn't a lot. I didn't have too many at the time, but it was enough to where when I was going to school and also paying, my college bills at the same time, I didn't want to have that extra burden. So then I was like, okay, I need to look into more low-end compute and more take it back to my grassroots of using my computer, my gaming rig that I had, the one system. And I was like, okay, I have a pile of Android phones because growing up, my parents were great enough to get me phones, but they would never get me an Apple. I always wanted an iOS, so I had a bunch of these, basically just Androids from various different ages, some of them way too old to use. But I'm like, why don't I use these phones? And Varus was coming along at the time. It was a mineable crypto that had launched in 2018. And I had seen some videos on it. I'm like, oh, this is kind of smart. I would love to tinker. I like just tech in general. So I went a little overboard right away and I bought 100 phones with no plan, which is, I don't recommend doing. I recommend having a plan, but I told myself if I buy them, I'll actually try to figure it out versus not starting. So sometimes for me, starting is a lot harder than, figuring out a plan. So just getting the 100 started things off, and it kind of led into today where I had to figure out. At first, I ran them in basically a desktop computer chassis. I put 20 in each chassis and put some fans on it. They'd have the batteries in, and I realized, okay, these are actually making income at the time. So from that point, I was like, okay, let's get into this a little more. I took the batteries out because I didn't want to have risk of fire. And then I'm like, okay, this actually sucks. Why am I using this much space in a whole desktop chassis to run 20 phones? It was just, I can probably give you pictures that you can throw up if you want. But it was pretty pathetic, the first versions of Cellhasher. And then I had come across some boards on Amazon that were like hubs, right? So then I went down the hub route of, okay, if I plug them in the hubs, the only problem with the hubs was they would never give all the power needed to all 20 phones. And there was no good way to like truly manage them because a lot of the hubs were only power. There's no data on these hubs. So I actually had an old hub that I had from essentially, if you're familiar with like the Evergreen miners, the Chia miners a long time ago, they came with hubs that had USB 3.0. So that was kind of my intro. And I took that apart and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then that expanded into an actual hub container, into a chassis with motherboards from the phone stripped down to the unit that we have today, which is pretty cool. There's some clones and some copycats out there now, which is I think actually awesome. I like a little competition, and it's been great. That's kind of how we got here. It runs at around 100 watts if you're doing full compute load, because most phones run 5 watts or so. You take the screen off, you can run at 4 watts. Actually, we'll get into it, I'm sure, here, but my units right now are running around 60 watts, and I'm running 3 things on them. So we'll cover that later. So I'm doing really good with my watts at the moment.
Yeah, that's super cool. And yeah, I also would advocate that people don't jump into things without a plan. But yeah, that's one of the things that's like always impressed me as we've chatted over the years with you is that like you will see an opportunity, and then you kind of think backwards from the opportunity, like how can I most efficiently or effectively like chase after that? And usually they're around like making some money or doing some kind of cool thing, and then like Cellhasher is a like great representation of that, and it also speaks to just like what kind of opportunities there are with a device like this, which I definitely want to get into in a minute. But first, okay, you've described a Cellhasher. It's a box, power supply, phones in the box. Like walk people through how you actually manage all those phones in the box.
Yeah, you would, oh gosh, you would never want to do this without having some sort of management tools. And I did that for the first month. And I realized there is no way I'm going to run 100 phones. There's no way I'm going to even run 20 phones without making it a part time job. And I didn't want to make it a part time job. I wanted it to be more hands off. I wish it was a little more hands off, but regardless, there's a software that lets you manage them. It's a lot easier to do it now. It's a little nicer UI. You simply plug in your box. Now you get keys. So if you buy a completed unit, you actually have keys that we hand to you. So if you don't have screens, you actually don't have to tap the allow this computer because we send you those. If you want to set up your own keys, you can totally still do that. That's just up to you. It's a little more plug and play now. And you just plug it in, you import your keys into our settings. There's a guide, a tutorial, and docs on how to do that. I'd say it's pretty straightforward. If you have any sort of technology, you're going to be fine. If you're brand new to this, you should be fine. If maybe you're in my generation, Gen Z, or maybe a little older, I'm sure anybody can really figure it out. We tried to make it so even my grandparents can figure it out. But nonetheless, it's pretty easy, self-explanatory. You can mirror all the screens. You can deploy mining. You can deploy AI now, which is really cool. You can deploy Acurast, all from like a single click update, different things like that. But yeah, it's all manageable with the software. There'd be no other way to do it. And I wouldn't recommend anybody doing phone farming or phone mining without having a management plan at hand. It's too much. It's too much.
Yeah, I have a little N100 mini PC I have plugged into my Cellhashers, and that's where I run the software, make it really easy. And yeah, that the software is a huge. 'Cause I remember when I first got into like Varus mining, I was setting up each individual phone by itself, and it's just like this is a hassle when one goes down. It's just a whole thing.
Yes.
So speaking, I mentioned a little bit of like, kind of you seizing some opportunity, making some good money in the past. Like, what are some of the opportunities that have happened that you've been able to execute on because of Cellhasher so far? Like, speak to that.
Mhm. Yeah, let's say 2025. I definitely was a lot more business focused, but I was still made some crazy, I'd say some really good returns. And I'll go through 2025 kind of from the start off the top of the head. And the big one was going to be Acurast at first. Acurast was in testnet for a while. So being early and being willing to get into testnet on different various applications and blockchains and projects, sometimes, not all the time, can have a slight payoff. Now, Acurast is slightly different because they went into a vesting period. So that was a little bit of a bummer for some of us, but nonetheless, the vesting still earns as well as the devices. So if I'm going off of when we made the last video that we chatted with, that was, do you know how long ago that was? Maybe a year ago, was it?
Well, I
Or
know,
was it
yeah, I
longer
know
than
that
that?
we did one at least a year ago. Yeah, that's my point of reference.
So one a year ago, and Acurast was a thing a year ago. And on one device, you could get about 200 to 400 ACU tokens a month. So at 20 times, we'll just do the low end, 200, that's 4,000 ACU tokens a month per box and a full year. So if you got in and you were doing this for 1 year before testnet launched, you'd have 48,000 tokens. And that's at a 10-cent rate right now. That's $4,800. That would have been essentially made if you had bought the unit. You're in profit like 3,000, and that actually earns as well. So not only do you get that, it earns APY going into the future. You can stake it, but your phones actually still earn as well. They changed the benchmarking a little bit, so it's more weighted heavy on the devices that you have and deployments. But I do have the stats. I do run an absurdly amount of phones on Acurast still today. And I'll kind of get into the reason why I do more of this versus mining, but I still do mining. So Acurast today, I have around 600 devices, and I'm making around 30 ACU tokens every hour and a half. And there's that's epochs, and every hour and a half is an epoch. There's 16 epochs. So 30 times 16, this is a roundabout number. It's a little higher. It's more like 35 tokens, but that's 480 tokens a day just from the phones that I'm running. And that would be $48 a day that these are pulling in just on the compute side. And now that other side of the end is like your staking. So you're also earning, I think it's 33% APY on your staking. So all in all, with my farm, I'm actually making around $130 a day on average between the staking and the compute. So there's real numbers, and the proof is in the pudding. It's actually live, and you can go and do this. So it's pretty cool. And all of that, if I do 600 divided by 20, that's 30 boxes. I'm running 28, but I have more phones elsewhere here. And they're running around 40 to 60 watts. 60 watts on the highest times 30. That's only 1,800 watts to run all of these devices. So you can do the math from there. You divide that by 120, you can get your amps. That's 15 amps that can run on your home electric service just in one outlet. So that's the first one that did really well. Very grateful for that. I have, of course, been mining it for a long time with a lot of phones, so my staking is a little higher than probably some of you guys. The next one that was really cool was Midnight. Midnight was made by Cardano. Charles Hawkinson's was one of the advisors and helped to make this. Cardano's kind of a dino coin at this stage, but nonetheless, it's still relevant in here. They made a chain called Midnight. To be honest, I don't know the purpose. I just know that it was mineable on CPUs for 2 weeks. They did a scavenger mine. So this is where, sometimes you got to be alert and kind of know what's going. So, checking up on Twitter or some of the people that you follow, or even in the Cellhasher Discord, people talk about this stuff. So they had a scavenger mine for 2 weeks in around the middle of November. By 2 weeks, it was actually 20 days. I got in on day 12. I missed the first 11 days, and I only put on 2 boxes because I was running other stuff and I was lazy. I wish I would have put on more, but with the 2 boxes, each of them made 84,000 night tokens when they got distributed, and it was only mining phase for 2 days. And if I look at the price of nights right now, I actually have my nights earning APY doing some automated market making, which is something that I recommend people looking into if they plan on holding assets. So it's 6 cents right now. So 84,000 tokens. That's per box, $5,270 per box for 2 weeks of your time. That was mining, so I couldn't really run too many other things while I was doing that because the devices were working overtime. But that's still absurd to me. It's just things like that happen. The Varus scenario in previous years happened to be the best one, of course. But nonetheless, so there's Acurast, there's Night, and then Unity is another one that came out. It's also on the Cardano kind of network. They're kind of with WorldCoin and World Mobile. Not WorldCoin, World Mobile and Mobile Token or something like that. They're a telecom network that has edge compute devices, and these phones will run as nodes. I don't know the compute that they're doing. I haven't been able to track it down. I've seen my network activity kind of spike. I think it's more so like slight data scraping and pinging of different towers. You earn more. I do have the stats on this with different phones. I'm going to pull this up so I'm accurate with this. It's about 15 cents per device, with some devices being a little higher per device running Unity. And Unity is a weird thing because you have to buy a license. And then that license is split between a node operator and a license like runner holder. So you could buy a license, and a license will get you 5,000, or a node, excuse me. You can buy a node, and the node will give you 5,000 licenses. So that's 5,000 devices you could theoretically run on one. I recommend don't even spending the money, because on the market, people actually post their license, and then you can see the split. So it's like sometimes 50-50, sometimes 80-90. And this is making for me around 15 cents a day per device currently to date. And this happened also back in December. At 15 cents per day per device right now is around $90 a day just in Unity tokens. And that's directly cash outable into like USDT or gift cards right on the app there, redeemable. And I have been able to redeem it. So there's no funny business as of yet there for sure. Really cool though. You can get more, and I have seen people get upwards of like 30 to 50 cents, but they run on cellular networks, whereas I have my devices on Ethernet. So my devices are way easier to see as like a farm altogether, because I don't take the time to proxy them with this one because I'm running Acurast at the same time. So that's the other thing, is you can double dip. So these are the kind of the revenues and avenues that I have taken this year. And then also, I was mining Monero occasionally throughout this, here and there with a few hundred devices. And Monero had a nice pump. Monero, you kind of need a little stronger devices. You're going to want like 8 to 12 gigabyte phones. You can run it with 4 gigabyte phones. We have a way for you to do that in the software. You'll just type in a flag that's light mode for RandomX, and it'll run on your device. But it's just, in my opinion, it's not worth it to run light mode. It's only worth it to run on the 8 to 12 gigabyte devices. But nonetheless, they're there if you want to get them or build them yourself. So that's kind of the main ones that I've been into. Other people have done tap farming and games and watching ads. Like that's a big one still today. Other people have ran servers like Minecraft servers. That hasn't changed. I haven't heard too much of that. And then the next biggest one is going to be OpenClaw and running local AI. But I haven't seen anybody fully monetize that in a way yet. So I can't speak for that in terms of just saving you money locally by running AI on the devices.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, so the very first time I ever chatted with you, I think was on the podcast. And at the time, you were really focused on spec mining with
Yeah.
the
Yes.
Cellhashers, meaning you were looking for like brand new fledgling, emerging blockchains, little projects, mining them early, waiting for them to hit exchange, and then
Hmm.
cashing out and making a profit. And at the time, you had been mining one called Shy Coin, I believe.
Yeah. Yep.
And I believe it was something like per Cellhasher box, 20 phones,
Hmm.
you were making somewhere in the magnitude of $40 to $60 a day mining that.
Correct.
Um,
Yeah. By the time it's sold,
yeah.
yes.
And that was a crazy opportunity to jump onto. And I remember posting that video, and tons of comments all about like, it's impossible to make these kind of returns on phones. This is a lie. This is a scam, whatever.
Hmm.
And like if people had just seen the opportunity, which a lot of people did, to their credit, listened to you, and then they bought these and they got on Acurast, for example.
Yes.
After that point, looking back, if you had just ignored that noise and instead
Hmm.
seen opportunity and then bought one of these, put it on just Acurast, retroactively, that's like $500 a month per box, or
Yeah.
more. And so I think this is a great example of like everybody has access to the same tools and the same information, and then potentially the same tools. At the very least, you probably have a phone, and it's just a matter of like what you are willing to like do, or how much time you're willing to put into it, or if you're willing to act on this, because the difference between the skeptic calling everything a scam to the person making $5,000 per Cellhasher or something like
Hmm.
that over the course of a year, I don't know, it just blows my mind. One, that these opportunities exist, but two, that if you just get over yourself a little bit, you can also like execute on these things. Um,
Yes.
I don't know if you have anything else you want to say about that before we move on.
Yeah, no, you're good. I will say that if I had more time on my hands, I probably would be going a lot harder than I am right now trying to maximize this because I've seen people with using it to, it's going to sound a little interesting, but, click farms, right? So they get paid to visit sites, they get paid to click on certain things. And some people have built full fledged businesses on this where they have a website, people pay them, and then they deploy their devices to go do the action that they were told. And this is made easier because we do have automation scripts. I recommend always following terms of service everywhere, but sometimes uh, people are able to find ways around that, and it ended up working for them. I don't do this. Another thing is going to be I've seen people do, and in our Discord, you can actually go in our Discord and there's farm apps. There's a list of probably 40 different apps that people are earning from that are completely non crypto related, which is super cool. This one guy posted his earnings that he paid $15 for a licensing for essentially an AI music creation. And he uses this music creation to make videos. He posts them on Instagram, makes all these different videos, and then he uses the music and then he uses his devices to then go stream his music on the videos. And these videos will then get picked up by other creators because the music song is trending. And once it's trending, it's actually generating him revenue. And he takes $15 and he's making like $1,000 here and there. It started off as $45 and it climbed to like $60, but he's in the chat. If you want to go message him, all of the chat history is there too. So you can actually go and look in the hashtag farm apps in the Discord. So it's really cool. That's one of the other opportunities that I've seen people do that's completely out of the normal that I didn't even think about. So there's that, to say the least.
Speaking of opportunities, when the market is fluctuating, I am dollar cost averaging. And one place I love to do that is with iTrustCapital, because iTrustCapital offers a variety of different accounts, including individual retirement accounts. And if you open something like a Roth IRA with iTrustCapital, you can buy Bitcoin and 90 other cryptocurrencies and even precious metals inside that IRA. And if those assets that you own go up in price and you sell them in the account, you owe zero taxes. That is the beauty of a Roth IRA. You're using post-tax or after-tax money to invest in that account for your retirement. And in my case, I'm also investing in Solana inside of my IRA. But I'm not just buying Solana, I'm also staking Solana inside my IRA. So if you buy a crypto like Ethereum or Solana and you stake it inside your iTrustCapital Roth IRA, you earn those staking rewards also completely tax-free. There's a link down below to learn more and to get a $100 bonus when you open your account and fund your account. Okay, back to the Cellhasher. I do want to talk about the AI stuff that you're kind of playing around with right now. Again, you said it's not necessarily something monetizable at this exact moment, but it's certainly a big utility of a Cellhasher, and just having something you could utilize is there's value in that. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing with in the AI spectrum.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with like Exo Labs. They're kind of an open source technology that kind of got known for using Apple, and they were clustering apples and they got a partnership with Apple. They're open source, and then they kind of went to a different open source license. So they're like sort of open source. There's one that's open sourced, one that's closed source. Regardless, we originally I had taken their original fork and I had been playing around with it, and I had forked it over and made it work on Androids. That was kind of the start of things. And I realized, oh, okay, this can like in theory work, but it was really bad still. Like it wasn't like usable. Like it just wasn't enjoyable at all. Like you had to wait 30 minutes for a response. It's like, okay, not going to wait 30 minutes for a response. So I kind of like tossed the idea around. And then I'm like, there's no way. Like I've seen people, spec out these things and tune them for different aspects, not in the Android sense, but in like the sense of like CPUs. So I took that and I used that as motivation. With a few other people, we were able to essentially make a whole new deployment system that uses Llama CPP, which is open source and public. And the majority of the open source models today all use a kind of Llama pipeline. And then we used a thing called Prima CPP, and we kind of merged the two. Prima is like a Chinese version of Llama that was made for essentially Raspberry Pis. But we changed both of those. We took things from both of those and we made this thing called a ring pipeline parallelism. I can't even say the word. ring pipeline. It's ring pipeline parallel. Whatever, you can say all of that. Nonetheless, what it does is it starts in one device, and you can have a cluster of 20 or a cluster of 3, cluster of 4. And the normal way that devices would communicate with each other is every device would be connected to every device. So it looked like this spider web. Every device will connect to every single other device on the thing. That was really slow because Androids have to talk to each other, and they're not made like GPUs on a server, right? Even though we have these boards and these custom motherboards to control them as hubs, they weren't designed that way when we were making these originally. In the future, I'd love to design them to do this. But nonetheless, we've achieved some great things with the boards we already have. So if you already have a Cellhasher, this will be coming for you, which is awesome. The way the ring works is there's one host device, and it has a speculization model. So normally a lower end model in the same family as a bigger model. So let's say you're running a 30 billion parameter model. For an example, a 30 billion parameter model today was like, ChatGPT 3.0 mini back a couple of years ago. So it was a good model then. It's not top of the line, of course, but now you can safely run that around 5 to 10 tokens a second by using anywhere from 12 to 10 devices, depending on how much RAM your devices have, because you still have to take that into account. So the way it works is they send tokens around a ring, and every token has a draft token. So the small model will end up sending tokens to all of the devices that have the big model. And if the big model verifies it, it verifies it first. So there's like a 70, this is the crazy thing actually, and this is really cool for AI nerds, is we achieved a 70 to 85% accuracy rate on using speculation, which is crazy because it just shows that the big models out there today, there's a lot of fluff. Because if a small model of like 0.8 billion parameters or 1 billion parameters or 2 billion parameters can get 70% accuracy guessing what the 30 billion parameter model can have, that's, to me, that shows me that like technically I don't really need to be using the 30 billion parameter model, but sometimes like if you're coding, that 30% difference is pretty substantial. So that's why those big models do exist, is for those really advanced hard tasks. But nonetheless, they are runnable, and this is tested on devices that are 5 years old. So 5-year-old chipsets. Now the phones that are out here, and we're going to be doing some more testing on these. It's just obviously a lot more expensive to get. Like if I want to build out a box of the latest chips, even with phones, it's going to cost me $20K to build one box. So there's a lot of like, okay, let's test it on one phone before we test it on other phones. But the latest chipsets now have NPUs in them. And if you've heard the word NPU, it's a neural processing unit. So it's made to sort of run these shaders, run these neural units, these tokens, and kind of have an interface with AI. And from there, with the 30 billion parameter unit, we were actually able to achieve 35 to 40 tokens a second with one device, because it was fine-tuned down. So yes, you have to use tunes and quantizations and stuff like that, but you were able to fit it. And the device we used was actually a Red Magic Pro. It's kind of an overkill device, if you ask me, but you can get 24 gigabytes of RAM and 1 terabyte in this device and run a 30 billion parameter model on one phone, which is just absurd. And now they have a new device which claims to have 30% more efficiency all around the board. So I'm really excited to get my hands on it. It's just out of stock. Nonetheless, the way we're going with this is we're going to make it easy for you. So all you have to do is essentially click a few buttons from a list of models that we kind of have already, like, not necessarily pre-trained, but just like pre-confirmed that we have them working inside the ring. You can take a model from Hugging Face. That's the big distribution for local AI models as of late. And you can take a model and you can just put it into the dashboard, and it will distribute it across all of the phones. And depending on the model size, it might take 10 seconds to load. It might take 5 minutes to load. But once it loads, you can chat with it. And from our specs, you're going to get anywhere from 5 tokens a second to 30 tokens a second, depending on the model, depending on what devices you're using. But then to take it a step further is now we're getting into agent swarms. And this is a big thing. We've seen it with OpenClaw. They killed it with their marketing. I think a lot of people were working on this same idea for probably the last year. Just OpenClaw hit the market in the way it needed to. Nonetheless, a lot of teams are doing this. We're seeing it in crypto. We're seeing Coinbase deploy agents like this. We're seeing just normal Web 2 companies deploy agents. What we have is actually a R&D team. So on our next dashboard, and I can send you screenshots that you can show people as well. On our next dashboard, it's essentially like you can choose how many devices you have and be like, okay, here's a predefined R&D team. So anything from analysis to research to developers to auditors to back-end architectural uh, engineers. All of these different jobs that you would have in like a company is now your R&D team, and you can deploy this, and it will deploy small models, but also you can deploy big models in the ring, and it will use all of these phones, so 20 different phones, or if you have 600 phones, you can have like 600 agents running, and essentially perform tasks and tell the whole system, hey, this is what I want to do. And instead of having it like, give you a single output and then you put it together, now you have agents that are actually working together that will build you out an app or build you out a dashboard for your analytics, or I don't know, edit your video in the future, your podcast or whatever. It'll edit it. It'll do audio. It's pretty crazy. I'm not saying that you should use phones for this. If you want to be serious, definitely go the GPU route. But if you don't have capital to go the GPU route, phones are still a very viable option. And if you want to run things locally, Androids are really secure. You got to get through an extra layer to hack Androids, and than you would like a Linux computer. Linux is pretty straightforward. Android has Linux as a bare bone, but it also has Android's OEM manufacturer's hard-coded security, which is actually how Acurast technically works as well. Acurast technically wouldn't exist if they couldn't be secure for the compute jobs that they're deploying for clients. So, yeah, that's kind of a lot, but nonetheless, I'm excited about it because when I started using AI to where it is now, it's pretty crazy, and I think everybody should at least get familiar with it. Super cool.
Yeah, there's some really amazing opportunities out there across the all the different niches and everything from the crypto stuff and the non crypto earning possibilities, but also just utilizing this for AI or other things. And so I think that's pretty cool and should keep a person who wants to venture into the world of Cellhasher busy. But
Yeah.
what if,
Oh
like,
gosh.
if this person is listening to this and they're like, okay,
Sure.
all this sounds cool. How do I get one of these things? What's the process like? Talk me through that.
Yeah, right on. So first, obviously, you're going to have to go to the website. If you get one, you can have your own phones. You can do the DIY option, or you can buy the pre-built version. I recommend before you buy, go on YouTube and type in Cellhasher build. You'll see people who have done the Cellhasher build, and there's currently one. His name is like Plat Labs or Splat Labs, and what he's doing right now is ripping the same phones that we use. So they're Flip 4s and Flip 3s. So he's tearing those apart out of phones. So he got a large quantity, and he's going through the DIY process of using this. It's just a small channel, but what I want you to see here is the amount of work that goes into this and the amount of just uh, the configuration and the tinkering you're going to need to do if you get your own DIY unit. It's definitely cheaper to do the DIY unit because you're not paying for our labor. But if you want to be sit and forget, or you want to be more so like, I just want my device and I want it built right, then get the pre-built version. They're made pre-built. We test them. So if there's a problem, we can help you with that. If you build your own unit and there's a problem, we can assist you to an extent, but we can't necessarily help you to the full extent of, we know that we tested this device and it works and stuff like that. And then pulling out batteries is something that's scary for a lot of people, and rightfully so. Some people have had where they're pulling out batteries and they need to toss that battery outside or put it in a bucket of sand. So if you don't have experience taking apart phones or messing with batteries, then I'd totally recommend going the pre-built option. It's going to be the most straightforward. You're probably going to save 2 months of your life building just one unit, especially on your first go. But if that's you, go for it. Nonetheless, go to the website. You can pick a box. There's different variations. You can look at the specs. You can go into the Discord that we have and kind of figure out your plan if you want to have a plan and figure out what you're going to want to do. I don't recommend going in without a plan. Totally go in with a plan, know kind of what you're going to try to execute. That way, when it gets to your doorstep, you don't just sit there and ask, hey, okay, what should I do now? That's okay. We'll answer that for you. But totally to save us time and to save you time, have a plan. But yeah, you'd get the device, you'd plug it in. My recommendations are going to be get it on Acurast right away. The sooner you get it on Acurast, it's like Bitcoin mining. The more devices on the network, the more hash rate, the less you technically earn. So that's going to be the case for the majority of these things. That's how all of these essentially money-making versions of projects and apps work is they get users, and eventually they get too many users. And if they can't meet demand for those users, then eventually the payouts start getting a little less until it evens out, until people can't produce enough power or it evens out and there's an equilibrium. So get it on as soon as you can. I would do Acurast, I'd do Unity, so you can do those at the same time. There's actually a lot of uh, bandwidth and AI scraping extensions right now. So similar to Grass was another big hit for me 2 years ago now, or no, a little over a year ago, not 2 years. But they have some. I think one's called like Capital AI. I can give you a list, Andy, of those two, so you can throw them wherever. But there's like 4 of these, and what they do is you can open up a browser like Opera or any other browser on your phone in these phones, and you essentially just click a button. All of these can run in the background because they don't take much compute. Because essentially what they do is they're going around and scraping different web APIs, and AI companies are buying these so that they can train their models off of. So right now there's demand. Obviously, we know AI is decent, and we haven't really seen a decline totally yet in the AI world as far as models. They seem to ever be increasing. So they need to get that data from somewhere before they get to actually like machine learning fully autonomous. So that's another payout revenue. A lot of these are in testnet, and some of these are actually in mainnet. Grass still pays out, so you can still do Grass at the same time. So there's like 4. Do Acurast, do Unity. You don't have to pay for any of these; it's all free. You don't have to pay for signing up or getting on accounts for the browser extension, like web scraping ones. So get on those. Those are going to be your best bet to sit and forget. And then if you want to experience with mining, I'd totally recommend still doing Varus. We have a bunch of different mining preset configs. We also allow you to bring in your own config. So if you are smart enough, or you can competent enough to use AI to give you essentially a run script, just copy one of our run scripts that we already have that's in the mining tab, paste it into an AI, and just be like, hey, can you tweak this so that we can run or mine this currency? And I would say after probably about 10 prompts of messing around with a few errors, you'll probably get a result that's actually mining something that's, of course, CPU mineable. Now we have, we'll get into it in a little bit again, but that's what I would do. There's your 0 to hero fresh start guide. There's documents, there's hash rate charts that we have, and then the Discord is really helpful. There's a lot of people in there that have gone the DIY route. So if you're going the DIY route, totally talk to them. They'll give you their insights, their experience. If you're going the route with by doing the pre-configured, it's pretty easy now. You'll receive your device in a box with instructions on basically how to download the software. And then on delivery, you'll get sent your keys for the device, and you'll set these keys into the settings of the software. You'll turn on your device, and Lord willing, everything works 100%. If it's not working right away, we'll help with you get that going. But it's pretty good. It's pretty straightforward and pretty easy at this point if you're buying completed from us.
Yes. Even more opportunities, even more alpha being dropped there. I love it. And yeah, my advice is that if you're listening to this and you like the whole idea of a Cellhasher and you want to operate one, definitely go look and see what's involved in doing the DIY route, which is not a route I wanted to go. I wanted pre-built.
I don't want to do it anymore either, to be honest.
And just see how much labor goes into it, which is why also there is often not a ton of Cellhashers available on the website at a given time because they kind of build them in batches. It takes them a long time to build them. So my other advice is if you are someone who wants one of these and you want to buy a pre-built one and it shows in stock on the website, maybe just go ahead and grab that thing right then and there because they do go out of stock when people purchase them and they can't quite keep up with the demand because it's a very involved process.
There is one more thing that I totally have to add, and it actually launched yesterday or maybe early this morning. It's a service now where you can send us your phones. So the biggest bottleneck that we've experienced is actually getting phones. It's hard to get a lot of phones in bulk. It's actually really hard, believe it or not. And so we're doing great. We still get them in bulk, but nonetheless, a lot of people who are out there are probably competing with us to buy phones. So some of the reasons you're not finding phones are probably because we're buying them all. Um, Outside of that, if you have your own phones and you don't want to do the soldering or the batteries, you can actually reach out to us on the page. There's going to be it's like services. It's not enterprise. We did release enterprise, and I'll talk about that too. But services, and it's bring your own devices. So you can send us your devices, tell us which Cellhasher unit you would like it in. And within about a 30 to 40-day span, we'll get them hooked up and running, and they'll be shipped back to you. With keys, you can have them with screens, without screens. We would recommend depending on different models to go different variations, but of course, we'll help you out through that process. So that's something that we're doing. I'm hoping that it doesn't get absolutely overloaded, but if you would like to do that, that is available to you. And then on the enterprise side, we had just started rolling out plans where if you're on the level where you've had a Cellhasher or you know people that have Cellhashers and it's worked for them and you want to go a little bigger, we now do anywhere from a minimum order of around 50 units up to around 500 units. 500 is crazy. If you do 500, it's going to be about a year. So just FYI, there's a lot of lead time with that. But 50 devices, that's around 1,000 phones. So if you're going to go big, we do have that. And that, depending on the device limit, we will actually go and install for you. So if you have a data center that you work with or a server, we'll send representatives out to actually help install those and get them up and running for you. But that's also a new thing that we have launching. So super, super exciting. It is actually live. So I did verify. We're good there.
Love it. Well, I'm a big fan of Cellhasher. I'm a big fan of what you have built, Luke. I've been running mine for a long time now. We've chatted a bunch of times now. So hopefully other people will get to watch this and get to wake up to what a cool tool this is. But thank you so much for chatting with me and sharing all this with the audience.
Yes. One more piece of alpha before I leave.
Yes.
It's XMR is going to be changing. They're going to be updating their algorithm. They call it a V3 update. It seems like everybody's saying V3 these days. XMR, what they're doing is they're increasing the performance on CPU side while degrading the performance on FPGAs and ASIC competitors. So recently, Bitmain is going to release the X9 that has been postponed because you have two people kind of at war right now with trying to get the best hash rate. So what I'm saying is there might be a slight opportunity to mine XMR. Well, these ASICs and FPGAs won't mine it, and you'll have a hash rate boost with CPUs that's coming. So it could be here any day. So I'm not sure when this will be posted, but keep that in mind. That's one of the opportunities that I'm personally looking into, and I'll probably throw a couple thousand phones at it once that's live. So there you go.
No
Thank you,
big
guys.
deal, just a few thousand phones. Keep an eye on that. Maybe Monero will also pump again simultaneously, and you'll make some sweet, sweet money. Well, thank you for chatting with me, and thank you for watching. Now, if you are interested in mining crypto, well, then watch this video here where I cover two other small, at-home, low-power devices that might interest you that mine both Bitcoin and Doge. Goodbye